lovely performance. I think they deserve one more round of loud cheer. Come on, yes. Thank you so much. Well, we'll start with our speaker sessions. Our first keynote speaker for the afternoon. Please put your hands together to welcome Mr. K. Vaithishwaran, a visionary entrepreneur and a startup mentor. Can we please have the AV running on the screen, please? India's first pure-play online retail company. He has helped build the brand, scaled the company, and raised an investment of several million US. In 2002, he co-founded FabMall, India's first integrated online and offline retail company, and was subsequently acquired by the Aditya Birla Group. The FabMall stores in various cities in South India were rebranded as More chain of stores in 2006. Currently, he consults with top retailers and brands on their e-commerce, omni-channel and internet plays and helps them go online.
So, everybody has this standard joke of having a session immediately after lunch because the audience is sleeping. I actually prefer those sessions because the audience is sleeping. It makes it easier for me, it makes it easier for you. If only they could put off the lights, then we can all sleep for 20 minutes. 19 minutes later, just remember, get up and give a big standing ovation so that people will think that you were listening to me. Are all of you still sleeping? Okay, so everybody's sleeping. Now I can start. So, it's a pleasure being here. This is the third time that I'm getting involved in an event with ICT, ACT. One in Chennai, earlier I've been to Coimbatore, and the common theme in all of these events is that they're typically held in institutions like this and attract extremely large group of enthusiastic students, but I haven't seen a bigger crowd like this, and in a kind of setting, an indoor stadium like this is quite unique even to me. We have approximately 20 minutes. We're going to speak on innovation. I spend most of my time these days actually traveling around the country, essentially talking to students like you in multiple colleges, both engineering, business schools, and other colleges. And one of the biggest things that I've seen is in our time, we used to, so my parents, when they're looking for a job, my father worked for the Indian Railways, and that was the limit of his ambition, working for the government, working for the public sector. In my case, when I got a job in a private company, my parents were actually surprised. They said, how are you going to work for a private company? You should work for the government. And today, the biggest change that I see is most people who pass out of colleges such as this actually don't want to work. And instead of looking for a job, they actually go out and create jobs. And to me, that's a big change because I think we've spent too much of time, too many years, too many decades blaming the government for not creating jobs. I really don't think it's the government's job to create jobs. The government should make it easy for people like you to create jobs, and I think that's where we're working. It's extremely good to see that all of you are looking to start up, innovate. I'm just going to share over the next 15 minutes some of the tips that I've learned as an entrepreneur for over 15 years. Some of these tips will be useful to you when you go start up. The first thing is, when you're looking for innovation, when you're trying to innovate, the theme of innovation is everybody thinks that you have to be a big innovator. A big innovator means you create a product that nobody's ever thought of, you create a product that nobody's ever seen, and you're going to disrupt the world. I think there are two problems with this. You have to be very, very careful. First, please don't try and innovate. And second, please don't try and disrupt. I think you have to, if you're focusing on innovating, if you're focusing on disrupting, then both will not happen. I think the key for you the key for you to focus is to solve a problem. Most youngsters who are starting up, who have no idea of becoming an entrepreneur, make this big mistake. They all try to innovate and they're all trying to disrupt. My advice to you is don't innovate, don't disrupt. Focus on solving a problem. Look for a problem that needs to be solved for a very large set of customers who will pay for the solution. The innovation and the disruptions can happen later. If the solution is a process solution, or if the innovation is a product innovation, you will see disruptions happening, you will see innovations happening, but don't focus on innovating and disrupting. Focus on the problem. Don't miss this important point. If you want to start up, if you want to do something on your own, look for multiple problems that are around us, try and find the solution. The second thing is all innovations are not disruptions. Even if you come up with a great innovation, it need not be a disruption. All disruptions are but definitely a result of innovation. So you have to keep this in mind. Don't say, I'm going to innovate and I'm going to disrupt, because it is possible that 95% of innovations will never disrupt. They will simply innovate. And innovations need not have any disruption impact at all. The reason for this is most innovations are what are called process innovations. A few of them are product innovations, and an extremely small percentage are both product and process innovations. It's things that innovate in both the product and the process. These are the ones that actually go and disrupt. So please forget these important words. Don't focus on disruptions, because most innovations do not disrupt at all. They simply are process innovations. Let me give you an example, a big example of an innovation and disruption. I think everybody in this room is using a cell phone, right? Almost everybody in this room has a cell phone. Cell phones, when they first happened, have become true disruptors. They've completely disrupted the way people communicate, connect, and contact with each other. The smartphones took it to a different level, but the biggest innovation that happened in that space was the cell phone. We are all very impressed with the smartphones. We have this swipe. The iPhones, when they came, we were swiping right and left. But the swiping on an iPhone is actually a process innovation. It's not a great product innovation. The product innovation is really the phone itself. iPhone made significant improvements and they pushed the bar in the way people interact with the phone. But it was not a product innovation, even though Apple and iPhone get a lot of credit for creating a new product. What they essentially did is that they create a new category, but it wasn't the product innovation that we think. The real product innovation was the original cell phone, not the swipe that we do. The second important thing that you have to keep in mind is, are all innovation, the question that people ask is, will the next Google, will the next Facebook, will the next Amazon, will the next Uber happen out of India? They may not. But we have to remember, we sometimes assume that all big innovations and disruptions will happen only out of Silicon Valley and they're not going to happen out of India. That's not true. I think it is important for all of us, especially all of you, whenever you're looking to solve the next problem, try and see if you can solve a truly Indian problem. You need to solve an Indian problem. Many of the problems that we look is we essentially copy a problem that's been solved in the US, we replicate that business model here, and then we hope that it'll go and become a big successful business. Mostly it won't happen. The reason many startups in India today are struggling is because they're essentially copying solutions meant for overseas audience. Hardly any of them have gone and innovated and solved an Indian problem. Let me give you some examples of actual disruptions, actual innovation that happen outside, whether they can be. So, the first thing that I told you is, can all innovations be disruptions? It won't be. Just a few days back, I was reading about the first time that one of the greatest architects in the world has designed a set of skyscrapers that are now for the first time suspended upside down from the clouds. They're not being built in the ground up. A set of very tall skyscrapers that are not on earth but actually suspended from the sky. Is that an innovation? Absolutely, it's a complete innovation. Will it be a disruption? We don't know. I mean, it's still too early to say whether people would be comfortable living in houses that are suspended in air. So it's possible that it's a great innovation, but it's not a disruption. Let me give you some truly outstanding examples similarly of innovations that have happened in India. So, I mean, all of you have heard of this gentleman called Muruganathan from Coimbatore who made those sanitary napkins that were meant for the poor people. That's an outstanding piece of process innovation meant for Indian conditions. That's solving an Indian problem. And to me, wherever I go, whenever I speak, it's an example that I never fail to mention, simply because it makes you feel good that somebody from India took an existing old product which had been used for decades, a process that had been used for decades, but made an innovation primarily meant for the Indian problems, solving Indian problems, which is how do you help Indian women, especially people from the poor levels of society, use sanitary napkins when they want to use it. It's not available to them. Everybody doesn't use those whisper sanitary pads. I mean, it's out of their income levels. This one solved a truly income problem. Let me give you some more interesting examples. There is a village in Karnataka, no electricity, and this old man there had heard of people using cooking. They don't have enough firewood. They're not able to cook. It's a village that is suffering. So this gentleman actually, when he was visiting the city, actually saw somewhere people using a lens which you could focus. I mean, all of us do this experiment at home where we actually take a lens, focus the sunlight onto paper, which lights up. So he went back to his village, took some rice, took some dal, put it in a bowl, took a lens and held it over it, focusing the sun rays onto it for several hours. Obviously, he had put it in water. And several hours later, the water heated, it started heating up. It took a long, long time before it started boiling, and obviously it didn't cook. But the fact is, in a place where there is no electricity, this is the source that subsequently many people have gone back, and so all they have done is put solar cells connecting it. And today, this is an innovation that is waiting, crying out for commercial production. Is it possible to use small level solar cells, connected it to electric solar kettles, and use it for people in villages where there is no electricity? Obviously now people are doing it for commercial production, but this happened several years back. Another outstanding innovation. Let me tell you a third great example of an innovation that I personally love. Very few people know about it. It's something that I think Indians must be extremely proud of, but it has not got the awareness. This was done many, many years back when the city of Chandigarh was being designed. It was obviously designed by a foreigner, but when he was given the instructions to design the city, people told him that we're looking for an extremely modern city. And remember, there were no phones there were no cell phones, there were no GPS, there were no maps, nothing. He came up with an idea that even today I find extremely powerful. If you go out of this onto the roads, or to go to any road in any city, anywhere in Chennai, you will see manholes, right? You see manholes? All of you have seen manholes? Each of those manholes will have a manhole cover. I don't know what they say in Chennai, but they probably will say the Chennai Corporation, Greater Chennai Corporation, Chennai Managarachi, something like that. The manhole covers in Chandigarh were brilliantly designed. Every single manhole cover in that city actually has the map of Chandigarh. And the location of that particular manhole is actually marked, highlighted with a star which shows that you are here, which means way before maps, GPS was discovered, you would never get lost in Chandigarh. It was the most incredible innovation that unfortunately in India has never got the awareness. When you go to Singapore, most people come back, they buy the Merlion, right, which is the tiger, the lion with the man's face, the fish and the lion. If you go to Sydney, you buy the Sydney Harbour. If you go to Agra, you buy the Taj Mahal. I don't know if any of you know that the memento that you buy in Chandigarh, even today, is actually a manhole cover. It's just an incredible piece of beauty. And this is the most important thing that all of you must finally keep in mind if you truly wish to innovate and start up. The greatest of innovations are actually breathtaking in their simplicity. The most complex thing that you design is actually liable to fail. If you want to do something innovative, if you want to do something unique, if you want to do something that people will sit up and talk, never forget this rule. It needs to be extremely simple. You need to be able to describe what you're going to do in one sentence. So when I went to Chandigarh last, I was reading those tourist books, and every time I visit that city, I'm actually fascinated. I make sure I go and visit some manhole covers. And it is very simple. The one sentence that describes that is, the manholes of Chandigarh city is actually the map. And that is the simple beauty of it. The beauty of this biggest innovation is the fact that you can say it in one sentence. So when you're ready to innovate, when you're ready to disrupt, when you're ready to start up, while there are multiple things that you need to keep in mind, you need to keep in mind that you need to build a sustainable business. You need to keep in mind that you need to build something that people talk about. Don't forget these two most important rules. The two most important rules for innovation that you must never forget is A, you have to be solving somebody's problem. Otherwise, the innovation is a total waste of time and money. If you're not solving somebody's problem, you're wasting everybody's time, including yours. Rule number 2, it needs to be extremely simple to describe. If it is not simple and it is not solving somebody's problem, then you are definitely not innovating. And you can spend hours, weeks, months, and years. Many years later, you would have started on this journey of being startup, doing innovation. You will realize at the end that you haven't reached anywhere. It's probable that you missed these two most important rules. I'm going to repeat those 2 rules before I close so that you don't forget. Remember, the best innovations actually solve somebody's problems. Problems for large number of customers is a fundamental requirement for innovate. And the second thing is, it needs to be extremely simple. If both these rules are not met, then you're not going to succeed at all. Thank you so much.